on YouTube as well for follow-up for those who can't make that training. We want to do some in-person trainings right now, but with everything going on with the virus, it makes it very difficult. So in the meantime, we're going to continue to do Zoom meetings, and hopefully things will clear up when we're ready to start collecting signatures, right? That would be really hard collecting signatures in the middle of a virus outbreak. Let's just say that. Let's just hope it runs its course and moves along quickly. So I want to get a little bit, just to talk, just a brief overview on the campaign of where we're at, just for those who didn't make the last couple of calls. So basically, tomorrow, March 11th, is the first day we actually can file the initiative to the legislature, which will enable us to give a longer time frame for collecting signatures. So once we file, and I'm not sure if we're filing exactly tomorrow, but within the next week, we're going to be filing the initiative. We're going to be issued a number. We're going to negotiate a ballot title and summary. And once we have those things, we can print our ballot, print our petitions rather. And then the goal is that we plan on having those available hopefully by mid to late April. And that's when we're planning to have our events. The other thing is we have, once we start collecting signatures, hopefully in April, we'll have until the end of the year, December 31st. Actually, it's a first couple of days in April. I'm sorry, January. I'm getting my months mixed up here. But we want to get them in before the end of the year. We can always take more down that come in over the New Year weekend or holiday, but we have to get them in before the end of the year. And our goal is 320,000 signatures. The campaign structure is going to be a campaign steering committee. In fact, the whole Washington board is going to transition to a steering committee. We're going to bring some more people on board. We're looking for people in business, labor, other industries and areas that are interested in joining the steering committee, but we want a nice round and a well-balanced steering committee. Under that is going to be some staff. We're going to have a campaign director. I'm the temporary campaign director, part-time, but I have a full-time job and not able to do this. My goal is to help hire someone and move to the steering committee. And the other staff we want to hire is a fundraising director, another field director. We have Georgia and Eastern Washington, but we need a Western Washington field coordinator or director, and then we also need a communications person. Luckily, we found a fundraising director. She's excellent. We're in the process of trying to raise a little bit more money. We're trying to have at least a couple of months' salary on hand before we bring her on, because it's going to take her a little time to get up to speed, but we want to get some money raised. And then we already have somebody we're interested in hiring as a field coordinator too, and for Western Washington, which we're happy about, that I found in the course of looking for a fundraising director. But again, we need money for that. So our top priority is money right now, and that's why we're going to be hiring the fundraising director first. We need money to hire anybody else and to get money for petitions. Our petitions are very expensive to print. What are they, about 30 to 50 cents a piece? What are they? Something like that to print them? That adds up. You're talking, hundreds of thousands of petitions. That adds up. And so we're going to raise a significant amount of money for that too. So that's a little bit of just an overview of the campaign. Is there any questions about any of that before we move on to some of the training?
Yeah, hello, this is Mark. Where are we at with regard to our couple of months' salary? I know we've been trying to raise some money.
We're just a couple $1,000s shy of where we want. We
Okay.
really need a couple thousand more. We've been able to raise about $3,000 to $4,000 over the last week, and we're trying to raise a couple more $1,000.
Thank you.
So we're getting close. Every email blast we put out brings in some money, but it'd really be nice to get a nice big influx of at least $10,000 to $20,000. But we're going to probably have to do it in smaller amounts until we get those bigger donations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, let's jump into what's going on. I want Georgia, turn it over to her to talk about our website and what we have with that and how we can use that for the campaign, because we want our leads to be able to access this information.
Great, thank you so much. And I apologize, I'm actually in my car, so I'm not as organized with my screens and everything as usual. But what I wanted to go over with you all tonight is how to post an event on our website, because that's going to be very important going forward in the campaign, especially with the County Leads programs, because you all know what's happening in your area better than I will, being over in Spokane. So last time we did not have the ability for volunteers to post events to our website, but this time we do. It's really awesome with our new program called Action Network. You can post events to our website for signature gathering or campaign launches, that sort of thing, any sort of event. If you want to rally up a team to go work the ferries to collect signatures, you can post an event on our website to do that, and I can send an email blast out to recruit volunteers to help you. So I'm just going to go over real quickly how you do that. It's pretty straightforward. Let me try to share my screen real quick. Give me a second to find Action Network.
While she's looking for that, I do want to say is that we're going to have a lot of these trainings. We're going to do them and have them online so people can go and access, like, how do I upload an event? We'll just have that one as one training. So that way people will be able to look at these and reference those later if you don't remember everything.
Okay, can everyone see the whole Washington website?
Yes, I can see it.
Everyone who's on video.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you go to the menu bar at the top, there's an item that says Get Active, and you can go to Events. And you'll see there's a big red button, Search, but there's also another big red button that says Click to Host. And you just click on that, and you can fill in all the information for your event. And then what it does is that it sends me a message asking for me to approve the event. And it's just like any other sort of, if you've worked with like the Bernie campaign or any other campaign uploading an event to their website, just put in the information, somebody approves it, and then it's posted on our website, and people can search on our website for events in their area, and we can send out emails to recruit volunteers for those events. So very straightforward. Any questions? I mean, I feel like that was really fast, but.
George, I do want to mention that once we get a communications person on board, because we have to wait till we get our number and our ballot title, but we're going to have a whole bunch of graphics available. So you'll be able to have graphics to use for posting events. See how it says add a banner image? We'll be able to give you access to that, as well as other materials that you might need if you're creating your own flyer or something, though hopefully we'll have a communications person to do that. But we will have graphics that match the current campaign once we have all, and unfortunately we can't do a lot until we know the number and the ballot title and all of that.
Yeah, actually, and while we're on the topic of our website, I just want to let everybody know we have so many great resources on our website. We have literature you can print directly from our website, resolutions that you can pass through your legislative district organizations, DSA, indivisible groups. You can pass resolutions, and that is under literature and resources, information, literature and resources. That page has like slideshows you can you can give to, if your legislative district organization will allow you to stand up and speak for 5 minutes about whole Washington, we have slideshows that you can access just right from our website.
And again, all of those will be updated with the new initiative information once we have that. So you'll have the most current information once we're able to update all of that.
I heard you say that we can send out emails to request volunteers for signature gathering. Is that automatic, or is there particular steps on the previous page that does that?
Georgia, I know you and I talked a little bit about how we were going to do that. You want to answer that?
Yeah, so the communication director will send those emails. It's not automatic, but it will be very easy to do once you upload an event. We will get notification that there's been an event uploaded, and we can, in just a few simple steps through Action Network, send out an email to anybody else in that zip code or city or whatever makes the most sense for that particular event.
We're hoping to also give you a spreadsheet of the people in your area so you can have direct contact with them. And if you only need to email a couple of them or call them, you'll have all their information, and hopefully, because you want their phone numbers and their emails, and you may want to track them in your own way, like who's available when. So the hard part will be updating that, because we'll have constantly new volunteers coming in. So we may need to just, every couple of weeks, or your the communications or field director will just send you those as they come in, as they sign up. We'll have to sort that out as they come in, but we do want you to have access to the people in your area so you can be contacting them way more. I mean, that's how we're going to have more contact and expand our outreach, if you're able to contact the volunteers directly in your area.
Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions about the website or uploading?
I got a question.
Sure.
So if you go back to the page for the events, is there a way to, like, I'm going to Fred Meyer, I need these many volunteers throughout like this time. What are the options of, like, this is the number of people I need, this is like the supplies that I need? And to go off the supply question, is there going to be a checklist available to, like, how to run a successful organizing events, like knocking on doors, going to baseball games, going to sitting at the store? Because those are different events, and there's different things that go into that can make it successful.
That's going to be a part of next week's training. We're going to dive deeper into outreach, events, like when you're out in the field kind of stuff. This one, we wanted to give you an overview of some of the tools that we had available and let you know, but next week we're going to dive deeper into those type of things.
And Katie, if it makes more sense to you to, like, come up with a value statement and a mission statement, or
Questions? Any more questions on the website? Oh, and Georgia, go ahead and answer your question, because wasn't there a way for them to be able to track it on the event?
Yeah, so when you post an event, every time somebody signs up for the event, you'll get a notification. But if you need materials for that event, I will be reaching out to you when people post events. Every time that happens, I can see on the back end that somebody's made, like, let's say it is, like I said before, a ferry. You're doing a signature gathering for Ferry Lines. I will reach out and I will say, do you have everything you need? Can I send you anything? That sort of thing. I have plenty of envelopes, and I'm ready to ship stuff out to everyone.
And once we get Western Washington field director, they'll be in charge, and that'll be your go-to person for those in Western Washington. Anytime you need anything for any event, you'll be able to contact them. We hope to have a campaign headquarters eventually too, though again, we have to raise enough resources to be able to get that. But we would want a central location. It really helps to have that. We also plan on having some drop-off locations and pickup locations for materials. We've had businesses in the past that were drop-off locations, and so oftentimes we'll have materials there and you can just go and pick up materials as needed as well. So we're going to try to find as many different avenues to make sure we distribute what you need when you need it and have it on hand. That's important. And as Georgia mentioned, we were thinking about having leads get access directly to Action Network, but it made it too difficult to be able to do that. And so we figured the communications person could send out bigger emails to whatever county we need and separate it out, but then give you separate spreadsheets of people that are in your area. So that's kind of how we're going to work it. So you can email people directly, but we can also send emails out through the system directly to your group, if you know that. Sean, question?
But we might,
So
so we might want to set up a.
let's say we have like a lot of volunteers inter-county, and are all the events, like let's say some of them are like, hey, we're going to go over here. Do we have to set up an event on the website for them to do that?
Not necessarily. You can do an impromptu thing if you want to and go, hey, you know, Saturday morning, let's meet at the farmer's market and cover this neighborhood or whatever. So you don't have to have an event on the page to get something going. You can just organize within your group and it not be on the website. But if you post it on the website, it lets people know there's a lot of activity going on, and sometimes that builds momentum. So but you don't have to put every event on there. It's really, we're leaving a lot up to the leads and figuring out how it's going to work best in your area, and just try to have the campaign staff and the steering committee support our volunteers as best we can. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to do the best we can. And I see that Andy just joined us. Welcome, Andy. Andy is our accountant, and I think this is a good time I think your timing is perfect, Andy.
Hi.
Hi there. And so we just finished talking about some other things, so this is perfect timing for you to jump in and talk a little bit about what you do and what the leads need to know about PDC reporting and all that good stuff.
All right. I'm basically the compliance officer for Whole Washington. I make sure all our PDC filings are accurate, up to date, and to make sure that we're fully compliant with state election law. Do you have like questions about?
I would just like you to tell everybody a little bit about the big things that when I've been working on past campaigns that volunteers have a lot of questions about is how to manage donations and when the timeline is getting those in, as well as managing any expenses they might have and what's the timeline for getting those in.
So I think ideally when people collect contributions, people should have remit envelopes with them. And when you do collect them, have everybody fill out the information in there. We need their name, address, and employment information. We don't need it for everyone all the time, but it's sometimes better to get it the first time that we get a contribution, just so that we don't have to later on chase people afterwards to get the information that we need.
Because isn't it, Andy, if someone donates over $100, then we have to, by law, collect their employer information. If it's under $100, we don't. But if people donate over time and it adds up to $100,
right,
it's better to get their information up front.
Right, so that when they pass the $100 threshold, we aren't caught trying to figure out what their employment information before the filing deadline. So I always recommend people fill in all the lines on the remit envelopes in full.
And they also have to submit those within a timely manner, correct?
Yes, I would say we have to make deposits within 5 business days of receipt. So the best thing to do is, I guess I don't know what situations you'll be gathering contributions, but I think maybe at the end of events, hand it over to someone who has, access to the bank account, and then they can collect all of that and then make the deposits.
Yes, what we'll do is if anybody is having an event or collecting donations, we'll have you submit that to one of the staff, or right away, probably the field director or the fundraising director, somebody like that, get that in their hands right away so it can get deposited. And then we make sure we have all the correct information that we collect. We will, if we don't comply, we can get written up and even have fines for not following the rules. So that's why it's important that we all follow those guidelines.
Right. And then something to keep in mind is that we can't accept more than $100 in cash from any one source. So if someone hands you more than $100, you can only accept $100 in cash. Anything more has to be by written instrument, which means check or credit card or cashier's check or anything of that sort.
Yeah.
So
I know it's a little rule, but the reason why they do that is they don't want people to pull donations and then we don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
And if you ever have any doubts about any of this, the easiest thing to do is ask people to go to our website. Just you can have them do this right in front of you to say, okay, if you want to make a donation, go to wholewashington.org, and then they can make a donation through the Act Blue link, and it will automatically collect all that information. But also, if you are having an event, I will send you remit envelopes that will have all that information that they will need to fill out in order to make a donation. So we got you covered, but this is all good information to.
Yeah, the most important thing is don't hang on to donations. Don't hang on to them. Get them into the campaign as quickly as possible so we can be in compliance. Any questions on the donations? And you'll be doing a lot of signature collecting, but people will want to give you money sometimes. And so if you have a donation envelope right there, which you will be a part of your packets, you'll be able to collect that information and just know that you need to get that right away. And we need to tell you this because you're going to need to train your volunteers about doing that as well. That's part of why we want you to be as thoroughly trained as possible. Any questions about the donation piece? And then the other piece I wanted to, Andy, just to talk a little bit, is that you may incur some expenses. And we haven't talked about what those might be, but say you have to print something up on your own and we've authorized you to do that and you have to submit a receipt. You have to get those in a timely manner. Andy, can you address the reimbursements and receipts that people will need to turn in the timeline?
Sure. The best time to kind of bundle those and hand them in is at the end of the month. If you have a lot of them, maybe once a week at the end of the week would be good. It helps me and Holly kind of gauge what's going in and out of the campaign to have current information. But just keep your receipts and then send them to, I don't know who is point person on that.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. It's most likely going to be the campaign field directors, Georgia in the East, and then a person who we hire here will be helping oversee those expenses because we want someone to keep track of those as well.
Perfect.
But like Andy said, you have to get those receipts in by the end of the month, because if you wait a month and go, oh, here's a receipt from 2 months ago, it makes it very difficult for us to reimburse you, and we'd have to do a whole correction on the report. It just creates a whole lot more work. It's much easier to just be in the habit of submitting any of your receipts at the end of the month to the field director, and then they'll go ahead and submit those for reimbursement. And we'll have a lot of these things written up for you so you don't have to remember. But we want you to just get familiar with that process and just so we're in compliance. These were the biggest issues we ran into in our last campaign of people holding on to their receipts or holding on to donations. And we just want those to come in regularly so we know what's going on. Questions about any of that? Andy, is there anything else that you think we should be aware of while you're doing your reporting, or things that we should know?
Not that I can think of. I think you covered everything.
Okay. Those are the big pieces. And so Andy's in charge of getting all those PDC reports in. And those of you, PDC is Public Disclosure Commission, just in case you didn't know that. And which personally, I'm a big fan of the PDC. I know not a lot of people are, but I love the PDC. We have one of the best PDCs in the country, and I'm happy about it. So we want to work with them and make sure we're in compliance. And what's great about the Public Disclosure Commission is that they're not out to get you. They're just trying to make sure that campaigns are out in the open and we know where all the money's coming from and all of that good stuff. And so as long as we're in compliance, if we make a little mistake in there, they're very forgiving, but the more we're upfront about it and more timely, the better off we'll be. And it saves Andy a ton of work not having to go and redo those reports again. Okay, any other questions then around PDC reporting and donations and expenses? Okay, well, thank you so much, Andy. We really appreciate you joining the call and answering our questions on this.
Yeah, of course. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to have them reach out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Cindy, I see that Cheryl Ann, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but Cheryl Ann asked me to show where people can make donations on our.
Oh, great.
So let me get the screen share going again. Okay.
And while Georgia's bringing that up, I do want to mention that it's perfectly okay if you want to have some small fundraisers with your team. I think it'd be great, you know, if you're showing a film and doing a signature gathering event, but you're also collecting donations. We need all the help we can get. It's a small donor campaign, so all the little bit of help we can get out there, a few $100s here and there goes a long way.
Okay, so here's the whole Washington website, and one of the main navigation items on the top is donate, and they can donate via ActBlue or Anadot. Some people don't like ActBlue because it's affiliated with the Democratic Party, which is totally fine. That's why we give different options. So, but the ActBlue is where we get the most donations from because people have their credit card information stored from the various campaigns that they've donated to in the past. So you can see it has my credit card information stored, so it makes it really easy for people to just quickly and easily donate money to us. So yeah, and we also, a lot of people like the Red Berets or want to get a t-shirt, a whole Washington t-shirt. So we have a merchandise ActBlue page where you can buy a Red Beret or a t-shirt, buttons, or bumper stickers. So those are also good things to know about if you are gathering signatures and somebody says, oh my gosh, I would really like a bumper sticker. They can order one right on our website and I'll send it to them. Any questions about that?
Okay, so at this point, we want to talk a little bit about some next steps, where we're going from here. Right now, Georgia created a spreadsheet that lists all the people that showed some interest in being a team lead in all the counties, and now we're evaluating, because some counties, like King County, we have quite a few people, which is awesome. And what we want to do with those people is connect them together so we can figure out which part of the county they're from, and figure out who's going to be covering which part of the county. Some counties, we only have 1 or 2 people, so that's easy. We'll just connect with them. Some counties, we don't have anybody, and we're going to need to go out and start recruiting in those areas. And we may be reaching out to our current leads to see if you know anybody in that area you might need to reach out to for us. So that's the next plan, is trying to plug in the holes as well as connect the people within the districts, and help them work together and get to know each other a little bit and figure out what they each want to do. As I mentioned, we're going to need to be doing I think we really only have leads in about half the counties right now, it seemed like, when I was looking at that, which means that we're going to need more. And I see a question from Mark. Yes, we have had some people from Whatcom County, correct, Georgia? I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I believe we had a couple people from Whatcom, I think.
Yeah, Whatcom, well, Bellingham was one of our strongest centers last time around. I think they collected the most amount of signatures. Paula Smith and Doug Brown, I think was his name. But you know, I think with Whatcom, because they collected about 30,000 signatures, the more people in that area, the better.
I only ask because I spent about over half my time up there. So
Great. And again, you can pick which area is going to make most sense for you, right? We want people that's going to, where is it going to make more sense for you, and connect you with the folks that are going to be in your area working with you. Because again, we want to do team leads, at least 2 people per county, if not up to 5 as leads. It could be even more. King County is going to be more than that, because we don't want to burn anybody out. And if something happens to one lead, there's somebody there, and then we can recruit some. We just want to keep continuity going, and we know it's better in teams. Strength in numbers. That's where we're going with this. At this point, we want people to start thinking about the upcoming launch events in April. I know I'm going to be working with Georgia. I'm going to be helping create the big one in King County. Georgia's going to be doing one in Spokane, so we'll probably do one in Seattle and Spokane for sure. But then we would like to do other parts. We definitely would love to do something in Central Washington, maybe Yakima, Tri-Cities. We definitely would love something maybe in Bellingham, maybe down south in Olympia or Clark County, both maybe. So we need to start thinking about where we want, but the more events we do, the more outreach we'll be able to have. And they don't have to be all on the same day. In fact, that's probably not a good idea to have them all on the same day. But we would like to just have them with over a 2 to 3 week period, if we can. So, but the next step is connecting the people with the counties. And on the phone, I think we had 2 or 3 people from King County. I know Sean's from King County. Who else is from King County? Cheryl Ann is from King County. Sean. And
I'm from King County.
Brad and Mark. Okay. And Cheryl Ann, we got her. So we have 4 people on the phone right here just from King County. And I know there was a few others on the list. So I'm going to be working with Georgia about doing some smaller group conversations with the different groups. And then we'll start working on that. Next week on our training, we're going to do it again on Tuesday. It'll be St. Patty's Day, the 17th. Though I have a feeling most people will be staying indoors. They've already canceled the parade. And we're going to be focusing next week on some of the things that Sean had brought up earlier around getting into the more about what we're going to do, events, materials, but also signature gathering, strategies, volunteer management and recruitment type of things, techniques, locations, kind of the nitty-gritty of signature gathering, volunteer management. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. As we're going along, we're going to also ask you what other trainings you are interested in knowing more about. And if we're not covering a topic, let us know and we'll create a training for that. Or if you just want to have a practice session, I found that a signature gathering, when you get people together and you practice, pair up, and one person, plays the signature gather, one plays, the signee, you can play different roles and practice those out. The reality of signature gathering is it's like a sales job. You got to just hear no a lot and be okay with hearing no a lot. That's the reality of it. But once you get past that no and don't take it personally, you just move on to the next person until you get those numbers. But we'll be talking a lot of those type of things. So I want to just stop right now in the last 10 minutes, just kind of open it up for discussion and questions and see if there's anything anybody has they would like to talk about.
Would I be wrong in assuming that people, like, for this issue, single payer, it's like really popular amongst Democrats, like, 80%, amongst independents, like, above 50, that when we are talking to volunteers, we should let them know that most people probably won't say no because it's a popular issue. But
Well,
I've never collected signatures before. So
even if it's a popular issue, a lot of people will just walk right by you and pretend you don't even exist. In fact, I don't know how many times, hey, I can't even get them to look at me, So you'll have a lot of people like that would pretend you're not even there and walk right by you. You have some people go, no, thank you. And just keep walking, right? So you have a lot of that where they may care about the issue, but they don't want to even be bothered to stop and sign anything. But you're right about this being a popular issue, and that's what we want to prey on and go, hey, you want universal health care? Sign this, help this get on this ballot. And that really brings, some people will run right up to you and sign it, which is great. Some people will ignore you. Some people will be nasty. That's the reality. I've had people swear at me before. And I go, and I just go, what are you talking about? And I was collecting about money in elections. I mean, you'd be surprised at what people reactions are. But again, it's sort of, you expect every kind of reaction. That's what signature gathering is about. Everybody, you'd be surprised at how people react. But a lot of people will be very supportive. And because we've done it before with 1600, a lot of people already know about it and will be on board again. Shirley Ann says the biggest reason people wouldn't sign last time was they weren't registered voters. That's a good point. One thing that we do encourage is that you can register somebody to vote right on the spot and then have them sign the petition. So one of the things that'll be in the packet will be voter reg forms, and we'll teach people how to make sure you fill those out too. But yeah, that's common. That's why, because they have to be a registered voter. So if they're not, you can register them. I'm just looking at to see if there was some other questions there. Hold on a sec. Yeah, auditor's office will give you registration forms for free. Yeah, I can pick up cases of them. And they have the old ones. They're going to be updating it because now you can pre-reg 16 and 17-year-olds. So you got to just make sure you can pre-register them, but they can't sign the petition unless they're going to be 18 before the next general election. And then you can. Isn't that weird? You can, or by the end of the year. By the time you turn the signatures in, if they're going to be 18, they can sign it. They just have to be 18 and registered to vote at that time. And since we can pre-register 16 and 17-year-olds, you can pre-register a 17-year-old if they're going to be 18 by the time we turn them in at the end of the year, counted, and then they can sign it. So you can get 17-year-olds to sign it if they're going to be 18, but they have to register to the pre-registration to vote. Another comment was the biggest change is that there's no income tax. Feedback was there would be real difficult to get signed. So we changed that. So that was one of the big dilemmas, and that got changed. And then he said, Tracy said, I got one person who argued against it, and against it caused 4 other people to stop and sign it. So sometimes it can work to your advantage. Yeah, and there have been significant changes to the initiative from last time, so it's actually improved quite a bit, which will addressing some of the concerns people had. So we're going to have some talking points and handouts, but we're going to train you on the talking points. You train your volunteers on the talking points. You're going to practice your elevator pitch, because sometimes you have less than 5 seconds, 10 seconds to communicate that as somebody's walking by. So you got to fine tune those pitches. And the other thing about signature gathering, we're going to get into more next week, is you just got to be kind of fearless about it. You sort of just got to get in there and just say, hey, sign for universal health care. Come on, yeah, you know, you got to put some energy behind it.
Communities of
John, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself because we're getting your background noise there. Thank you. Somebody else, let me see if I missed any other questions. Yeah, the other one that someone mentioned is, this is not a Niman initiative, a Tim Eyman initiative. That helps, because a lot of times people will ask you that. Is this something Tim Eyman is behind? Because a lot of people don't like Tim Eyman. Obviously, it's not. The other thing that I saw was a big benefit is identifying yourself as a volunteer. I think that makes a big deal. And we're going to have volunteer t-shirts that say I'm a volunteer, because that goes over well. A lot more people will willing to sign if you're a volunteer than paid signature gatherer. So I think that works to our advantage too, that we're volunteers. And so we want to sell that. And in the city of Seattle, if you're a paid signature gatherer, you actually have to wear something that identifies you as a paid signature gatherer. A lot of them don't, but I call them on it all the time, just because I know the rules. But if we identify as a volunteer, that really wins a lot of people over. So that's going to be another benefit. Other questions, comments? Still got about 5 more minutes. Sean was said, could you give the timeline? So, oh yeah, filing, tomorrow's the first day that we can file. Though I don't know if we're going to file exactly tomorrow, but it'll be within the next week. Then it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to work with the Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office on a ballot title and summary. Believe it or not, they come back to you with a ballot title and summary, and then you go, no, I don't like that, or yes, I do, and come up with an alternative. So it's a little bit of a negotiation back and forth. And that process can take 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes up to a month. We're hoping that only takes 2 to 3 weeks. Once we have that final language and the ballot number, then we can print the petitions, which will take a little bit of time. About how long does it take once we get that petition? How much time do we need for them to print that, Georgia?
It took about a week. Last time I had found a printer in advance, and then do need to discuss finding a graphic designer to design the petitions, but it's not very long once we have the design and we ship it to the printer.
So once we get that, that's another week. So you're looking at a month before we'll probably have petitions at the earliest. And that's why we're looking at mid to late April for the events, because that's when we're going to have petitions. It takes that long to do the language, get the petition and all of that. It's just how the timeline works. But then once we have the petitions within about a month, hopefully, you know, that's on the outside, hopefully, if it goes 2 to 3 weeks. And it depends on when they file. So I don't know when Cindy Jacobs and Aaron Georgian is going to file, but I think it's going to be within the next few days. I think the petition is, or the initiative is done. And then we're just waiting on them. So 3rd, 4th week in April, yes, that's when we're looking at our launch events. That's why we're planning. And that's pretty much the timeline for our initiative with 735, but our initiative wasn't as detailed, so it didn't take as long for the printing and the negotiation. And then Georgia said the estimator has been updated. I do want to mention too, I think we're just about at, what is it, Georgia, 200,000 pledged signatures? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, and I actually haven't updated that in about a week and a half, and I know we've gotten at least 2,000 more pledge signatures since then. And I do want to say that the last time we had a meeting, I did mention that anybody who gets a significant amount of pledge signatures, the person who gets the highest will get one of the nice bracelets that I showed at the last meeting. I haven't been able to tally those numbers. I've been really, really busy doing a little get out the vote for the presidential election. So I plan to announce who the winner of that is this week. So I apologize, I'm a little behind.
So yeah, we're just about 200,000, which is great. And there was a question, does anyone have a movie suggestion for a fundraiser? What was that one film, Georgia, that you've been showing? What was the name of that?
So we have bought the rights to A Power to Heal, and we have 6 copies of that. So we can get that for you if you want to do that. I would suggest for a launch event not to do the movie, but if just for a fundraiser, that would be perfect. But for one of the launch events, you really want to make it, you could do maybe Now Is the Time. They have a 30-minute version of Now Is the Time. And then do like rah, 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 let's go do this, and give everybody petitions and ask for money. But like a 2-hour film is probably not
Yeah.
the best for a launch.
Yeah, for the launch event, it's going to be more like a training, handing out materials, talking about the campaign, have some snacks, rah, 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 that kind of thing. The biggest obstacle that's going to be before us is what's happening with the virus. That is going to be our biggest problem right here with events. If all of a sudden they have a mandatory shutdown. I mean, look at what happened with Italy. They closed down the entire country of Italy today or yesterday. If that happens here in Washington State in the next few weeks, that's going to put a damper on our launch, unfortunately. We're going to go forward like we're going to go with it, but know that we may have to postpone this a little bit because we have no control over this. But from what I've been seeing with what's happening in the other countries, it may be an issue for us. Mark, question?
Yes, I just happened to see a note pop up that the governor is expected to institute a ban on gatherings of 250 people or more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not just speculative. It's
yeah.
going to be a real problem.
Yeah, and so we're going to play that by ear, but we're going to go forward with our training. So luckily, we can do a whole lot on Zoom meetings. We can do a lot of work prep behind the scenes. The issue is that once we come time to collect signatures, we have to get into the public. That's the only way to do this. And I'm hoping that things will die down literally die down with this, not people dying, but the virus die away, so we can move forward with this. We can use this to our advantage, though, because it's a perfect example about how people without insurance are the most vulnerable in situations like this. I'm another one of those people without health insurance. I haven't had health insurance in years. So I'm one of those other people without health insurance. So it affects us a lot. We're after 8 o'clock, so I want to wrap it up. Any last minute comments, questions before we end? Well, thanks everybody again for joining us for another call. Again, this will be posted, and if you can join us next week, we're going to dive deeper into the whole signature gathering. We're going to go over some training. I got some good tips and strategies that I'm going to share. We'll also upload a lot of materials on that online once we get that all worked out as well. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.